On the big 550 KTRS. Jill is at her home. She's battling a little bit of a cold, and she did the very nice thing of keeping us healthy. Connor McCarthy back in the house after a beautiful week in Michigan. We want to hear all about that. But we got a good guest list lined up today. Greg Willard will join us at 10:30. A lot going on in the country. He's the guy to talk to. Radio Rich. We're going to go back in time. And we're going to hear from one of the legendary disc jockeys from KSHE Radio. And then because the Cardinals and Cubs played this weekend, we're going to play about 10 minutes with the best baseball analyst in town, the former All-Star and Gold Glover, Andy Van Slyke, in the 11 o'clock hour. Jill, good to be with you. How are you feeling nowadays?
Well, I'm actually feeling 100% better today. Thank you. But I can't quite get rid of this bronchitis, the cough that I've got. And so I thought it would probably be better if I wasn't spewing my germs all over the studio. I know you've got an important wedding to go to a little bit later in the week. And so I'm doing my best to keep my germs contained to the house here this week.
It is kind of cool, though, doing the show at home. I know that you're such a worker and you're really going to be prepared. You have great thoughts for the day. But it is kind of cool, like during a commercial break, you pet the dog, you pet the cat, you have some coffee, you're lounging in a chair. It is kind of nice to do it that way, isn't it?
No question. This is the first time in the 8 months, really, since we launched the Frank and Jill show, that I haven't been in the studio to do the show. And I have to say, I'm in my, shorts and t-shirt, not a stitch of makeup on, looking probably a little rough, but also nice and casual. I've got all my hot drinks out spread in front of me. And the cat's just watching, wondering what the heck I'm doing with this funny headset on my head. And it has been kind of fun so far.
Cool. Connor's in the house. Connor, we want the full report. Your week in Michigan. First, you could brag about the weather, okay?
Well, okay. So during the middle part of the week, it got a little bit hot at the end during the 4th of July weekend. Kind of like highs in the mid-80s, but during the week, the high was sitting right around 72, 74 degrees. So it was really nice. It's been an adjustment coming back to this weather, 90s and humid, not as good as the weather up there, I'll say. But it was a great trip. Saw a lot of family and did some stuff up in Michigan on the lake, and it was great.
Like what'd you do on the lake?
We went kayaking. We traveled up to Lake Superior for a day and kind of kayak along the shore there. There's like a bunch of cliffs and interesting shoreline, and then the normal stuff: tubing, water skiing, wakeboarding, that kind of stuff on the smaller lake when we went back downstate a little bit.
Boy, I just keep thinking about that temperature, 72, 73.
Yeah, 70. It was cold in the morning. Slept with the window open because there was no AC in the place we were staying, and it was chilly. I had to wake up at like 6 a.m. and close the window because it was too cold. So,
wow. Not
something I'm used to in the middle of the summer, but it was great.
All right, we're going to talk about a lot of things today, but I think prevalent on everybody's mind in America is this Texas summer camp, Camp Mystic. The all-girls summer camp that I think it's around the Guadalupe River. They've confirmed that 27 campers and counselors have died in weekend floods, and at least 82 have died after the devastating floods in central Texas. Jill, this is unbelievable. You could relate to this because you used to send your kids to camp, and we all can relate to it. And to think, these parents sending them to a nice camp, and all of a sudden they lose their flesh and blood.
Oh, you said it so perfectly and so beautifully, and I'll talk about it a little bit more in opening dialogue as well. But yes, as a lifelong camper myself, and then somebody who was a counselor, so in charge, and knowing that feeling of what it would be like to be in charge of these kids, and then have something so devastating and so sudden happen, I don't know anybody who could hear the news of this and not just feel a heaviness in their heart over what we've all been watching unfold over the last 3 days. Devastating.
And just this search for survivors. I mean, the rescuers are going nonstop, not sleeping at all. And now the flood threat is looming. It just, it's crazy. It really is.
Yeah, It's one of those times I was brought back to the words of Mr. Rogers, where he said, "In times like this, think of the helpers," and we think of those first responders who are working around the clock, doing all they can to either find survivors or to bring closure to families. I happen to have a coaching colleague who is from that part of the world. She's lived out east for a long time, but she has a cousin who she was very close to, and he and his wife were on a camping trip. They living their best life, camping in this beautiful part of Texas Hill Country, and they're still missing this morning. And as the hours wane on, it's not looking good that they will be found alive. And they'd taken all these pictures over the weekend about what a perfect place it was to celebrate the holiday weekend. It's just heart wrenching.
All right, let's take our first break. When we come back, the opening dialogue. This is the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS.
Electricity is very important because if you don't have electricity, you're sitting in the dark in more ways than one. And when the lights go out for one last time, maybe, just maybe, you want a whole home generator. Well, that's where Michael Baldy comes in because Michael Baldy can do that. He's putting in a whole home generator for a friend of mine on the hill. Whether you live on the hill or a brand new home, at some point you're going to need some electrical help, and that's where Michael Baldy comes in. He's been an electrician since 1996, and he has a full team of electricians who will help you every single step of the way, whether it's a whole home generator, maybe some extra plugs for the Christmas lights, maybe it's something in the basement, something in the attic, maybe the garage. Doesn't matter. Whether it's an old Victorian home or a brand new commercial building, indoor or out, Michael Baldy, the electrician, has got to be on your phone. Put him on your speed dial, 314-968-9999, 314-968-9999. You can thank me later. Michael Baldy, BaldyElectric.com.
This is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. That does give us certain advantages, for example, in experience and resources. But being big doesn't mean less personal or less local. Our attorneys live and work in your community, and as neighbors, they understand the challenges your families face. Cordell & Cordell, a partner you can count on.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. 600 Kelwood, St. Louis. CordellCordell.com.
Andy from Hats and Stuff. The great deals continue on Cardinals, Blues, City SC, Mizzou, and so much more. Something for the entire family.
And the summer concert schedule is heating up, and we have a huge selection of cowboy hats for just $19.99.
Located at Westport Plaza, across from the Drunken Fish and the Kobe Steakhouse, or 24/7 at hatsandstuff.com and the Soulard Farmers Market on Saturdays. Hats and Stuff. Good stuff at really great prices.
Hats and Stuff. Hats and Stuff. Hats and Stuff. When it comes to mortgage lenders, I know you have no shortage of options. But are you working with someone local who can truly simplify the process? I'm David Goldberg with the Goldberg Group, and as a St. Louis home purchase expert, I know this market inside and out. I specialize in tough-to-complete situations for borrowers who are self-employed, looking to buy and sell at the same time, and may have been turned down somewhere else. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or seasoned homeowner, you can trust me with all of your home financing needs. Call or text me at 314-471-4030, 314-471-4030.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset. Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardie contractor and Pella Window specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. And have a banner day.
It's Julie Buck here for Dents Express STL. Let's talk about a live and local company that is really doing an incredible job. Let's shine a spotlight on this family-owned business. They are fantastic at what they do. And of course, they fix your car when you have dents. I mean, we've had a lot of hail damage that's gone around lately, and there are some people that like to put it off. Well, don't worry. You can still get this covered in most cases under insurance. And our friends at Dents Express STL will actually take care of the paperwork for you, because that's one of the things that I feel like deters people from getting that repair done. But do it. Get your car back to looking good, making your ride look smooth. Make also minor collision repairs, Dents Express STL, and they do want you to make an appointment. That's the best thing to do. It's just to make an appointment. You can simply do that online or you can call them. Find out more on their website. It's dentsexpressstl.com with 2 locations, one in St. Charles and one in Baldwin.
Are you retired? Are you thinking about retiring? Who is helping you with retirement? Might be time to check out the show When Retirement Happens, hosted by Kevin Lloyd of Legacy Wealth Advisors. Saturday at 1, Sunday at noon on the Big 550 KTRS.
And now the opening dialogue with Frank and Jill on the Big 550 KTRS.
Powered by Worldwide Technology Raceway.
All right, great guest list today with Greg Willard, Radio Rich, and Andy Van Slyke. This is the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS. Thought 1, I'm not sure if I have ever had as little confidence of the Cardinals winning a single game than I had last night. I mean, there was no chance in the world the Cardinals were going to win that game. A, the Cubs are good, and B, Eric Fetty is not. In fact, if the Cardinals were to drop Eric Fetty or Miles Mikolas, I don't think any team in baseball would pick them up. Now think about that. 40% of your starting rotation, 2 guys who get the ball every 5th day, would not be in the starting rotation for any other team in Major League Baseball. Now look, I don't mean to be disrespectful. I was a Division II basketball player. I'm nothing. These guys have had success at the big league level. But right now, at this stage of their careers, it's tough. I don't mean to be mean. However, I will be positive for a moment. If somebody told me before the season that the Cardinals would be 5 games over 500 on July 11th and asked me would I take it, absolutely. And the hero of Saturday's game, Joel Pozo, is an unbelievable story. Parts of 11 seasons in the minor leagues. 2020, he'd lost his family insurance because the minor leagues shut down because of COVID. His son was battling life-threatening seizures at the time. The family, listen to this, the family was even homeless for a period of time, and they had to live in his car parked in a Walmart in Orlando. And there he was on Saturday in Wrigley, delivering a game-winning home run for the Cardinals. Brutal weekend, but a special moment for a guy who's seen a lot of life in a short period of time. Jill, you're up.
So this is you just heard from the Today Show this morning, a woman who has a more than 40-year connection to Camp Mystic, sent her kids there, talking about just how what a special place it has been and how unbelievable it is that they've suffered. Of course, the tragedy in Hill Country in Texas has been on all of our minds this weekend. Anyone who's known and loved a kid who looked forward to camp all year, families, retired couples camping for the holiday weekend who perished or are still missing, it just makes our collective hearts ache. And it reminds me of being a little kid and hearing about something some of you are going to remember, the Big Thompson Canyon flash flooding tragedy in Colorado back in 1976. 144 people died, most of them sleeping in their beds when a wall of water from a rain-swollen river swept them away to their death. We had, as a family, when I was a little kid, recently camped not far from where that tragedy happened. And as a little kid, it scared me and made me realize, I think probably for the first time, how fragile life can be sometimes. It's just a reminder with all of this, pause, be present, and hug and connect with those we love.
Wow. So you were right there.
Yeah, this was when back in 1976, we just happened to be on my dad had I think it was a pastor's conference out in Colorado. And of course, we didn't ever have a lot of money, so camping is how we traveled. And it was a great memory, and then got back home, and actually a family from our church had family members who died, who had a cabin in Colorado, who died at that Big Thompson Canyon flash flooding. But it just, a lot of the things about what happened this weekend brought back those memories for the first time in decades. I honestly haven't thought about it for a very long time.
Wow. All right. Thought 2. So Wednesday, Monique Brooke, Chris, and I are flying to Lake Tahoe for a wedding for a wonderful family who we've known for a long time. Great people. We don't know the bride's family at all, but they are throwing like an incredible, lavish 3-day celebration. I mean, I'd be happy going to a wedding with its outdoors, with mustacholi, ham, checker tablecloth, and some cold beer. But I started going through the activities and the events they have planned, and I just started to like add things up. You know, I literally got out my phone. And I realized I've become exactly the kind of Italian that Sebastian Maniscalco described in his comedy act. Oh my goodness! And that's literally what I was kind of doing last night with a little help from the other three, and we came to this number like, oh my gosh! But Sebastian just tied things up very nicely.
He is hilarious, and that was a little bit too funny. If you were watching NBC Nightly News like I was a few days ago, you saw St. Louis's own custom furniture maker Martin Goebel's story about his attempts to get Cincinnati Insurance to fix the roof of his North City shop. Goebel and Company, his insurance fight was the subject of NBC's Cost of Denial series, which looks at what happens when insurance companies turn down legitimate claims. Reporter Christine Romans, who does a great job, came into our city for the interview. Goebel told her about how continued bad weather has created insurmountable problems as he's waited for a new roof. Cincinnati Insurance didn't comment. Goebel's case could go to court or as early as next month. And it reminded me, Frank, when I was watching it, of a classic Contact 2 story that I did, of course, for many, many years here in St. Louis, where they're just getting this guy to run around with all kinds of just in a circular motion with paperwork and things that are clearly an attempt to actually take care of what needs to be taken care of here. In the meantime, he's got, for years now, he's got this leaky roof that's continued to damage his business. I hope that shining this national spotlight on it will make a positive difference for him.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I saw that on Nightly News. Good stuff. All right. Thought 3, kind of a stream of con. Really cool things that I experienced over this break here. We started off with the cannelloni at John Minio's. It really is one of the best ever. Town and Country. Gosh, was that good. Ted Drew's last night for the first time all year. Still amazed at the efficiency of the place. I think only Chick-fil-A moves faster. I don't know, maybe it's tied for first. And the custard, they have not lost their fastball. And the kids working in there, they're just all sharp and courteous and sweet. I think this was your suggestion, Jill, Department Q.
Yeah, what'd you think?
We watched the first episode, and it is dark, and everybody seems to have issues, but it is compelling, and I'm back for episode 2, hopefully tonight. But I recommend it, at least one episode in. How many episodes in are you?
I actually finished it over the weekend, and you are so right. It's heavy, dark, very British. This one takes place in Scotland. So you have to kind of be prepared for all of those components if that's your jam. But as many of our listeners pointed out on Friday when I mentioned it, it is a little bit addicting once you get started in it.
And then the thing, of course, I didn't like, 82 people were taken into custody in the police department downtown. And here's the thing about it is 56 of them were children. 56 of the 82. They resisted arrest. They assaulted law enforcement, stealing and trespassing. I mean, where were the adults? How are these kids raised? Can you imagine assaulting a police officer if you're a kid and resisting arrest and stealing and trespassing? Oh, man, it's just, look, ultimately it's on the kids, but boy, where are the parents here? Just really depressing to read these accounts in the Post-Dispatch and to watch it on 5 on Your Side.
100%. Great coverage by you guys on that over the weekend. Two things in your reporting that they did highlight that I thought was very good in your station's reporting. One is they will be as aggressive as they can with all the parents in this case, and prosecuting them as well as their kids facing juvenile charges, because they really do want people to recognize you can't just say, I didn't know where they were or what they were doing. That's not an excuse, especially when such a high percentage of these kids were armed, including one as young as 13. And so I think the targeted approach to not looking the other way, hopefully, will be a deterrent toward future having fewer people feel like they can go downtown and act like crazy people on July 4th and other times as well. Final thought for me today, it's bulletproof, stronger than steel, and lightweight somehow. It's a new kind of manufactured wood. And according to the Wall Street Journal, in an article that really caught my eye in the last 24 hours, it is the future of building. What they do essentially, according to the maker, a startup called Invent Wood, is they're saying that this wood can replace steel I-beams in the skeleton of building, and it's even impact resistant enough for things like bulletproof doors. It's also beautiful. How they do it is they change the wood at the molecular level, so it's not like our parents' plywood by any means. It's a molecular level. They go in and change the wood and then put it together into this manufactured pressed wood product that is showing incredible promise for the future. One of the main reasons, of course, in the United States is that we have the renewable source of timber when collected in the right way, as it is under law, protected most ways. We rely on a lot of foreign sources for steel. And so it's one of those cases where we might be able to look closer to home to provide a need that is definitely there as buildings go up or repairs are needed. But I thought it was a really cool story.
That is good. That's good. All right, before we go to break, a little bit of business.
Yeah, for sure. Premier Heating and Cooling. I'm sitting here at home today as I'm fighting off this respiratory crud, to use a technical term about it. And I'm extremely comfortable because Premier Heating and Cooling has been out to the house a couple of times in recent months to make sure things are running as they should be. And in my old house with the air conditioning units up on the roof, that's no joke. Their technicians say no problem. They got out there and did the clean and check on the air conditioning unit and told me most certainly that some of the other companies I paid for previously through my home warranty company, so they picked the vendor I didn't get to, they had discovered that the clean and check had not been done properly on my air conditioner in past years. Thank goodness I hired Premier Heating and Cooling this year to do the job. They are so good at what they do. Perfectionists, really, I think is the best way to describe it. They got up there, they took care of the neglect that had happened from some of the previous vendors I'd used, made sure things were running great, charged up and ready to go for even the hottest St. Louis summer. And then while they were out here, they discovered a couple of our thermostats were not operating correctly. And by the way, they were at least 20 some years old. We've replaced those with energy efficient and models that have the remote option for me to run my house's heating and cooling from the comfort of my phone, wherever I am in the United States or in the world. So Premier Heating Cooling, they have been great addition to my most trusted services that I use around the house. I hope they become yours as well. PremierHeatingCooling.net, 636-916-1122.
And now, KTRS weather from the John Beal Roofing Weather Desk.
Slipping into the dog days of summer here this week. Warm, muggy, and a chance of rain each and every day. Isolated showers and thunderstorms today. Let's be ready for that. But boy, a lot of dry time in the mix as well. A cloud-sun mix this morning will make way for sunshine this afternoon, at least away from any isolated storms. 89 for the high. Looking at dry times overnight tonight, I'll forecast the low down to 73. And then Tuesday's worth watching. Scattered thunderstorms developing. Couple of those could kick out some strong gusty winds and some areas of heavy rain. The time to watch really is the afternoon into the evening. A muggy high of 90 on Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers for the Big 550 KTRS.
John Bill Roofing is the home of the lowest price roofing guarantee. Get a free estimate today at johnbillroofing.com.
Truck drivers, it's time to take your skills to a company that invests in your safety and comfort. Schneider's newer and well-maintained equipment keeps drivers moving and making money. Our trucks are spec'd with the latest safety and comfort features that drivers want. Plus, we offer a huge selection of driving jobs so you can find a job with the home time and schedule you've been looking for. Upgrade to a better driving job today. Search jobs near you and apply now at SchneiderJobs.com. That's SchneiderJobs.com.
You're finally ready to renovate your home. Now's the time to start your project to have it completed in time for the holidays. River Bend Kitchen and More specializes in kitchens and baths, but also bars, bookcases, cabinetry, countertops, and more. They work with homeowners, contractors, and developers. Proud supplier of Waypoint Living Spaces cabinets, as well as other quality cabinetry lines. Financing is available, conveniently located in Soulard, Alton, and Rascuda. Call 314-314-7411. Online at riverbendkm.com.
At Maryville University, we power dreams, not just degrees. For nearly 150 years, we've empowered graduates to build successful careers. At Maryville, expect a rigorous, technology-driven, mentor-inspired education in a diverse and inclusive learning environment. We help you take it to the next level, no matter what field you choose. Now is the time to turn your ambition into action and transform your dream into reality. Start your journey at maryville.edu.
JF Electric Company, Inc. seeks Assistant Project Manager, Edwardsville, Illinois, to manage electrical construction projects. Highly involved with the bid process, often contributing information and recommendations on the bid itself. Proactively assists PMs with managing electrical construction projects from winning the bid to completing the work. Helps establish project objectives and lays out the project plan in accordance with contract specifications. Identifies, applies for, obtains, and maintains all applicable permits as directed by PM. BS or equivalent in engineering or construction management. Ability with prior leadership role. Adhere to a schedule and reliably show up for all scheduled shifts on time. Attention to detail. Computer proficiency. Primavera or ability to learn Primavera within 90 days. Resumes to J. Foster, 200 Lakefront Parkway, Edwardsville, Illinois, 62025.
Since 1974, Permajack of St. Louis has been helping residential and commercial owners protect their biggest investment. From successfully solving foundation structural problems to making sure basements remain dry, Permajack has performed tens of thousands of projects on both sides of the river, utilizing state-of-the-art technology, techniques, and equipment. Permajack of St. Louis has done it with honesty and integrity, never recommending anything outside of what you really need. For many repairs, Permajack provides a transferable life of structure warranty, all while Permajack of St. Louis has earned a BBB A+ rating and accreditation. For foundation settlement, bowed or buckling walls, cracks in your foundation, walls or bricks, or basement waterproofing, choose the hometown family-owned team at Permajack of St. Louis. Schedule your free inspection and estimate at permajackofstlewis.com. That's permajackofstlewis.com. Permajack. Solid as rock.
You know that music means our favorite guest is about to join us. He is Greg Willard, this present professor at St. Louis University. He is, I think he's number one on my list of all-time guests. Good to be with you, Greg. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Great to be with you and your listeners.
Got a lot to talk about, including Elon Musk starting a new political party. We know sometimes a third party can have a role in a presidential election like it did with Ross Perot and President Bush. What about the impact here? What do you see?
I think your assessment is historically right on the mark. Third parties in our 236-year republic have not fared well. Rather, they have, in just about every instance, operated as spoilers. You pointed out the Ross Perot phenomenon. There was George Wallace back in 60s, and then tragically he was shot in the early 70s. And then you can go back to 1912. when Theodore Roosevelt launched a comeback with the third party, the Bull Moose Party. As a spoiler, he split the Republican vote, and we Americans had Woodrow Wilson for 2 terms. Bundle all that historical backdrop up, I think Mr. Musk's rambling about forming a third party, if they get off the ground, and certainly he has the money to get a third party off the ground, I think that effort resulting in the election of a new group of congressmen, senators, or in 2028, a presidential candidate, I would not even make it to the show window at the betting line, Frank, of win, place, and show. It may be a spoiler, but it's not going to have a long list, if any, of candidates that were elected by this new party.
Hey, Greg, does it have the impact potential or the possibility of impacting, though, as you mentioned, as has happened in other cases, splits in the party? For instance, I heard some political analysts over the weekend guessing that some of the tech bros who came on board with President Trump in this last election have some reservations about some policies and some of the things on the Republican Party platform. Does something like this threaten to siphon off a percentage of voters, or is it really inconsequential?
Well, I think you raise an interesting perspective, Jill, and I think it's particularly interesting in 2025 as distinguished from, say, as recent as 1975 in this respect. Our politics today at the party level are significantly less binary than they have been historically. Said another way, political loyalty among the American electorate today, party loyalty, is at its lowest ebb in our history. The result is that, as you point out, Jill, there may be siphoning off of the tech bros or siphoning off of some of the working class voters because of what has happened with this so-called big, beautiful bill mess. But as to how that translates into the spoiler role, it's really difficult to predict because, again, you can't just take out a piece of paper and do some third-grade math as to, well, the Republicans are going to lose this much, but the Democrats are going to lose this much, so the Republicans are going to win. We're just too fractured of an electorate right now to make that assessment. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
All right. Another story that's breaking this morning. You know, the Trump administration promised the release of new blockbuster information on Jeffrey Epstein. Now the Justice Department does not plan to release any new documents in the matter. What's your overview on this saga?
I put it right up there with President Kennedy was never assassinated, and he's living on an island off the coast of Greece. There is a part of the American people, maybe internationally, but certainly the American people who are fascinated by conspiracy theories. This is yet another one. What is not getting the attention this morning, Frank, is the death of one of the big conspiracy theories. And you and Jill and our listeners will recall that with Mr. Epstein's horrible crimes, that there was this conspiracy theory that he was murdered in federal custody because he was going to spill the beans on whomever. It came out within the last few days, unequivocally, by the Trump Justice Department, that in fact, and they have video surveillance of his cell, he committed suicide. Well, poof, there went this conspiracy theory that had a shelf life of several years. The reports this morning then about the delays and this and this and that put me in the camp, Frank, that says I've seen this movie before. I've heard these conspiracy theories going back to Dallas on November 22nd of 1963. For me, I've got plenty of other things to think about rather than a new Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy. I think it's a bunch of hokum.
Yeah, and a text coming in to me this morning, or as they're listening to you, Greg, pointing out that Kash Patel, of course, the Trump-appointed director of the FBI, was one of the leading voices talking about those conspiracies previous to his position. And of course, it was now the FBI's investigation that seems to have cleared up those false conspiracy stories. So a little bit of irony there, perhaps, as well. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about, if you would, the big, beautiful bill, which many are touting as perhaps one of the biggest accomplishments of the Trump presidency so far. And as our KTRS legal analyst, I'm specifically interested in hearing what your thoughts are on whether we're going to see a lot of legal challenges to components of this bill. That seems to have been a lot of the Democratic tactics since the Trump presidency began, to take a lot of the executive orders to court and to try to fight them in the court system. What are your predictions about that, and would that be worthwhile or not?
Several pieces to that, Jill. Let me quickly try to break them down. First, the primary fence post for this big, beautiful bill, as it's termed, is that it is a budget bill. And it's a budget bill because they needed to use the budget process to get it through the Senate, where they can duck the filibuster. In that respect, it's different than major policy substantive legislation that our listeners are familiar with. So criminal law reform, civil rights legislation, environmental legislation. Oh, would it be wonderful if we could have some immigration legislation? So in that context, because it's a budget bill, sure, there will be lots of challenges. Water is wet, and Trump administration budget initiatives are going to be challenged in the courts. The difference is that a lot of the challenges against the Trump administration, the Biden administration, the Obama administration, they emanated not from budget issues so much, sometimes they did, but the larger challenges were on policy issues and policy matters. For example, with President Biden and student loans, President Obama with the Dreamers, some of President Trump's immigration initiatives. Those are policies, Jill, that are getting much attention in the judiciary with lawsuits as opposed to budget. I think what I just am befuddled by, and it's right here in Missouri, in that just a cornerstone of this beautiful bill is the what it does to Medicaid and health care. And it basically cuts $1 trillion. Well, in Missouri, and I'm sure it's similar across the river in Illinois, 21% of Missourians get their health care through Medicaid. Now, a person a couple of months ago wrote a remarkably prescient op-ed piece in the New York Times, of all places. And he pointed out that the argument is that the Republicans should build a big, beautiful bill around slashing health insurance for the working poor. And the writer said, quote, "That argument is morally wrong." And if he went on then to say that if the legislation passed, Missouri workers and their children will lose their health care and hospitals will close. It's that simple. Well, what happened then is that bill passed. Last night, a hospital just across the river in Nebraska voted to close, a rural hospital. Now, the person who said those things was not Bernie Sanders or AOC or Chuck Schumer or the chairman of the Americans for Socialism. The person who championed keeping Medicare and opposing this $1 trillion cut in health care was Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. And Mr. Hawley and Mr. Schmidt and every Republican congressman from Missouri and Illinois voted in favor of this legislation. Now, as you two and our listeners know, I don't take positions on the air, and I sure as heck am not going to take positions on this one. But I think a lot of our listeners on both sides of the river deep down know why their congressmen and senators voted yes on the big, beautiful bill. And it has nothing to do with health care policy.
All right. So 59% of registered voters say they oppose the bill. That's from an ABC News poll. And you factor in, I think the stat is since the Civil War, the president's party has lost ground in the House in like 38 of the 41 midterms. Mm-hmm. But with all of that said, let's just say, and a lot can happen between now and when the midterms happen, but let's just say the stock market is still high and gas prices and egg prices are still low, and you have the successful airstrike and the ceasefires. Is it going to be a bloodbath for them if all those things are then what they are like now?
I take a pretty skeptical view, Frank, especially if I take your assumptions into consideration. I take a skeptical view right now of the Democrats' chances in 2026. The reason that is central to my skepticism is not so much these policy issues and the fact that the entire Missouri Republican delegation and Illinois Republican delegation voted to cut $1 trillion from health care. My skepticism is if you think of it as I said a moment ago, a binary choice. Well, do I vote for X or do I vote for Y? Do I vote for X, the Republicans? And history says in the midterms, as you so correctly point out, Frank, that X gets a little smaller. But when we go into the ballot box, we're given a choice. And I think what a lot of Americans from coast to coast are facing is the lesser of two, not evils, but the lesser of two bad choices. And with all due respect to our Democratic friends and neighbors, if we learn nothing else last fall, what the Democratic Party at the national level is selling, the American people ain't buying. If that structurally is the choice in 2026, Frank, and that the banner of the Democratic Party is nationally is being waved by Bernie Sanders and AOC and Chuck Schumer, that's why I say, in response to your question, I'm not as skeptical as of the Republicans' chances as history would suggest, and the poll you mentioned, that history would suggest the Republicans would otherwise suffer. we'll just have to wait and see.
Good stuff. Great to have you on, sir. Thank you so much.
Frank and Joe, great to be with you. Stay safe.
All right, Jill, a little business for you. Did we lose Jill?
We might have lost Jill.
Okay, we'll take a short time out if you'd like to.
Hey, you guys,
Okay.
I'm back here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I had to reconnect. Sorry about
No
that.
problem.
That's the logistics of having me on remote today. I appreciate it. When I was working with a couple of my clients on the other hat I wear, of course, in my life coaching practice recently, one of the clients, and it's happened many times through the years, said is they really find that when they're feeling down and overwhelmed and exhausted and burned out, that having something to look forward to is like refueling their gas tank or like recharging their batteries that are feeling worn out and drained. And travel, we know, is one of the best ways to do that. And I know that is so true in my life as well. If I know I've got a really fun trip planned sometime, I don't care if it's a month away, if it's a year away or 2 years away, there's something about that that really has a positive effect on my psyche and the way I show up in the world. And I think that's true for a lot of us. And if that's the case for you and you're recognizing, hey, I don't have anything on the books, or I've been thinking about this thing, but it's time to actually get it set up so I can really look forward to it. Look no further than our friends at Altair Travel and Cruises, because a lot of times what the hesitation is in planning the trip is that it's not that fun to do it, or it's overwhelming, or we've made a mistake in the past and things didn't turn out as well as we wanted, or we wasted money on a place that looked good on the internet, but not good once we got there. And that's where our friend Altair Travel and Cruises can shine, because they do their research. They've visited so many of the places that they send their clients to. They've quality controlled, checked it all. They are the best at navigating travel snafus, like when weather or places like the Newark airport pop up that create roadblocks in a successful journey. They are here to untangle those for us and make things better. Altair Travel and Cruises, altairtravel.com, or 314-968-9600.
A message from the master. If you are looking for that one-of-a-kind gift this year, come on in to Newssetter's Fine Jewelers. Let Richard draw your future present for somebody you love. This special engraving lasts a lifetime. At the corner of Big Ben and Doherty Ferry, or at wowdiamonds.com.
I'm Bob Hardcastle. Listen to my Money Talk radio program every Sunday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. on the Big 550, where we discuss your money in an easy-to-understand manner. We have interesting guests, chat about money. We try to help you feel more comfortable with your money by talking about the investment market. Join me. I'm Bob Hardcastle.
Money Talk, Sunday morning at 8 on the Big 550 KTRS.
Make a splash this summer with Dogtown Pizza. The weather and the pizza ovens are heating up, so stock up on 12 different flavors of your favorite Dogtown. Why cook hamburgers on the grill when you can get a hamburger pizza? Hot chicken, the SOB and for me, and from the garden, tomato, basil, garlic, and the veggie. Make your next pool party a pizza party with 12 different flavors of Dogtown. One for every swimmer in your house. Make it a Dogtown summer at every local grocery store and dogtownpizza.com.
I'm Farmer Dave, and here's my good friend and owner of MasterCars Inc., Alex Rosenberger, with today's hot MasterCars Inc. deals.
Thanks, Farmer Dave. We are insanely busy right now. It's my peak selling and buying season. I need to buy as many pristine Corvettes, Cadillacs, Vipers, Raptors, and other sports cars and luxury cars that I can find. Do you have a unique, rare, classic, or collectible vehicle you want to sell? Maybe even a daily driver with super low miles and in excellent condition. If so, we want to talk. We are cash buyers for collector-grade vehicles, including motorcycles. We've got great deals on hard-to-find, auto-check certified vehicles, too. Hop on our site today to buy, sell, or trade.
So rev that motor and point your car in the direction of MasterCars Inc. and buy or sell today. 4100 Namioki Road in Granite City, or visit MasterCarsInc.com to get more details. That's MasterCarsInc.com.
Do you love pickleball? Experience Major League Pickleball right here in St. Louis, July 17th through the 20th at Chavis Arena. Feel the energy as the world's best teams battle it out for first place. Every serve, rally, and point, it's electric. It's more than a match. Enjoy great food, fun activities, and an exciting family-friendly atmosphere. Meet the stars, get autographs, and see all the action up close. Tickets are limited, so get them now at MLPSTL.com. That's MLPSTL.com. Major League Pickleball.
There's nothing else like it.
Mom, what do you always say?
There's nothing sadder than jewelry that sits in a drawer.
That's why we are proud to offer jewelry repair on site at Newsteaders Fine Jewelry. We know that your jewelry is important to you, and we take that part of our job very seriously. Visit us at Doherty Ferry in Big Bend or learn more at wowdiamonds.com.
Progressive knows when you're on your boat, you're already on vacation. And Vacation You forgets all your worries. Vacation You doesn't even keep track of time and knows that time is a meaningless construct designed to control us, man. But Regular You knows you don't want to be too far out in the water after the sun goes down because Vacation You doesn't know how to navigate in the dark yet. Vacation You and Regular You really need to get on the same page. So bundle your boat with your home or auto policy and earn an automatic discount from Progressive. And spend the savings on the both of you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Hey, the Bommarito Automotive Group is Missouri's #1 automotive group. They've sold over 1 million vehicles by giving you a better price, a better selection, and more for your trade. You can shop them online, see their entire inventory of over 12,000 vehicles online at Bommarito.com.
All right, welcome back. Frank and Jill Show. Radio Rich coming up at about 11:05. Andy Van Slyke at about 11:30. The Salvation Army, KTRS Radio, and Westport Plaza have teamed up for Christmas in July to collect toys for the Salvation Army Angel Tree Toy Town that distributes toys every Christmas to those in need. Please help support this great cause and donate an unwrapped toy at the Salvation Army booth at the Westport Movie Nights on July 11th and 18th, or you can drop them off at the KTRS studios anytime. You can say hi to us, too. Where is the Westport Movie Nights? Do we know that?
I think it's out there on the lawn, right?
Yep. And
So where the big Rawlings thing is?
Yeah.
Yes, right outside the Rawlings store where that giant, wonderful screen is. Doesn't that sound fun to bring the kids down? I think you should bring Zoe and Spencer down to watch the Finding Nemo on July 11th or The Sandlot on July 18th. It's free. All you have to do is bring an unwrapped toy for the toy collection, and it's going to be a really fun night.
Wait a minute. When you say Sandlot, you mean like the famous baseball movie?
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I tell you, in terms of kids' movies, I think that's #1 all time for me.
Sandlot.
Yeah.
What would you go with?
I think the girls might like Finding Nemo a little more since they're a little younger, that cartoon, but you might have to save Sandlot for a couple of years for them. But I would agree 100%. It's one of my favorite all-time movies in general, but especially kids' sports movies.
Toy Story 4.
Incredible.
Toy Story 4 would be up there. Connor, you got
really
one?
the fourth one. How about Cars? That's what I remember.
Cars, good.
Yeah, the Lightning McQueen, still big with the kids apparently.
Yeah, that was a popular one at our house too.
Would The Karate Kid be considered a kids movie?
Yeah, elementary school kids. I think not little kids, but yeah, a little bit older.
They've come up with a new one, by the way. Have they come up?
They're always coming out with new ones.
But I think one
They
actually
did.
showed at the theater, which I couldn't imagine paying $15 for. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory would be a top 5 for me. All right, all-time great kids movies. Join us on the text line. We'll take a short time out. This is the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS.
Why'd I go to the doctor? One day at the firehouse, I was so lightheaded I could barely stand. Even my crew noticed. Getting checked out was the right call. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit NoTimeToWait.com, sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
The University of Missouri St. Louis is committed to providing top-ranked education. More than 80% of our students receive financial aid. At UMSL, more is what moves us. Find your more and explore your financial aid options at more.umsl.edu.
KTRS St. Louis, the Big 550, and KTRS.com.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. In Texas, the death toll climbing again following those devastating flash flooding over the holiday weekend along the Guadalupe River. The search for those missing continuing. ABC's Jim Ryan has the latest.
Overnight, another 7 bodies were found in the waterlogged debris left by the flood here in Kerr County. Across 5 counties, at least 87 people lost their lives when extreme rainfall pushed rivers here in the Hill Country well out of their banks. 27 of those who died were children and counselors at one summer camp.
Questions remain over the storm warning systems in place in the flood-prone zone. Senator Ted Cruz pledging a review of the alert systems.
We will have a reasonable conversation about, A, are there any ways to have earlier detection? And some of that, the limits of a flash flood, they're very difficult because they can arise so quickly.
North Carolina also dealing with river flooding and evacuations due to remnants of Tropical Storm Chantel. More than 100 roads in and around Chatham County were flooded and a portion of the highway collapsed. At the White House, President Trump monitoring the flooding situations and approved federal aid to Texas. Later today, the president welcomes Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the White House. It comes as Israel and Hamas are inching closer to a possible Gaza and hostage release deal. ABC's James Longman is in Tel Aviv.
Israel and Hamas are as close as they've been in months to a ceasefire deal and hostage release. Under the terms of this agreement, there'd be a 60-day pause in the fighting, during which as many as 10 living hostages would be released. Donald Trump has been pushing hard for this deal, but there are still some major hurdles here.
No signs of progress in ending Philadelphia's blue-collar workers' strike. Municipal workers walked off the job last Tuesday, affecting a range of services from trash collection to police dispatch. No negotiations are scheduled until tomorrow. Workers want a 5% pay increase in each of the next 3 years. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, it's John Carney. A lot of conversations with the folks over at Allen Roofing, pretty much asking advice, because I know a lot of people got smacked by that storm, and he had some great advice for people to think about. First off, be careful of who you talk to when you're going to get some work done. Make sure there's an agreement, and the scope of work is laid out in that contract. Also, as you can imagine, a lot of contractors are busy. Give them some time. And you know what? Allen Roofing will come put a tarp on your roof at no charge, even if you don't use them when you get the roof repaired. Also, check the Better Business Bureau. See what the reviews are for contractors that you deal with. And also remember, insurance companies allow up to an entire year from the date of loss to file a claim. So you've got time to get those repairs done and that replacement done. Don't rush it. Just a few tips from the people that know roofing and repairs better than anyone. It's Allen Roofing, online at aroofing.net.
.4 degrees at 11:03 with KTRS News. I'm Steve Potter. There are two tests today for the outdoor warning sirens in the city of St. Louis. Fox 2 is reporting that the first test was held just minutes ago at 11 a.m., and the second test will be coming up at 11:15. They'll be activated from two locations to make sure that both sites are functioning. A man is now in custody in connection with a deadly shooting that happened late last night in Farmington. Police say it happened in the 600 block of Hilltop Place Drive in the breezeway of an apartment building. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Dozens of arrests were made over the holiday weekend as part of the St. Louis Police Department's 4th of July operations.
Police say since Thursday, 60 firearms have been submitted to the crime lab. This marks a 60% increase during the same period back in 2024 and a 160% increase compared to a normal Thursday through Sunday. Nearly 90 people were arrested over the holiday weekend. Police say many of the arrests involved juveniles for gun-related offenses. Police also issued dozens of citations for fireworks violations. Jill Enders, KTRS News.
U.S. Senator Josh Hawley will be making a stop in St. Louis tomorrow. He's scheduled to hold a press conference to speak about the expansion of the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act. He says this will allow tens of thousands of new claimants to receive life-saving assistance. A groundbreaking ceremony is set for tomorrow morning for a new state-of-the-art training center for firefighters in the St. Louis area. The cities of Brentwood, Clayton, Maplewood, and Richmond Heights are joining together to construct a facility for advanced firefighter and emergency responder training. The Central Corps Fire Training Center will be located at 4224 Carr Lane Court. Clayton Fire Chief Ernie Rhodes says Tuesday's groundbreaking symbolizes the power of regional cooperation and that recent events like the May tornado demonstrate how communities can benefit when first responders have access to both training and collaboration. And the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis kicked off its Food Truck Saturday event over the weekend for victims of the tornado. Each Saturday, up to 1,000 hot meals will be served by local food trucks on a first-come, first-served basis at the Urban League's headquarters. This KTRS Business Minute brought to you by Walter Knoll Florist, the place for all your floral needs. You can place your order anytime at WKF.com. In the markets, the Dow is down 336 points at 44,491. NASDAQ down 137 at 20,464. And the S&P 500 down 39 at 6,239. In sports, St. Louis City SC lost again, this time at Salt Lake at 3-2. City SC remains in 14th place in the Western Conference, with the Portland Timbers up next at Energizer Park on Sunday. And the Cardinals lost to the Cubs 11-0. They play the Washington Nationals tomorrow. Our forecast calls for a 20% chance for some rain this afternoon and this evening. We're looking for a high around 90, an overnight low in the low 70s, a 40% chance for rain tomorrow with a high again around 90. Right now it's 6 minutes past 11 o'clock, sunshine, 84 degrees at the Gold Tower at Westport. Steve Potter, KTRS News, the talk of St. Louis.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
It's time to go back in time with Frank Cusimano on the Big 550. KTRS, the talk of St. Louis.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second hour of the Frank and Jill Show. Jill Farmer, Frank Cusimano. I'm broadcasting from home today, trying to get rid of this respiratory virus that has been plaguing me a bit. But the next voice you're about to hear is one that pretty much all of you are going to recognize. Radio Rich Dalton, St. Louis radio icon known for his extensive career in classic rock radio, his deep knowledge of the music, a member, of course, of the St. Louis Classic Rock Hall of Fame, easy for me to say, and way too many other kudos and broadcast Hall of Fames to mention here. You heard him on KSHE and among other places in St. Louis. And of course, so many of you listeners loved him because of his encyclopedic knowledge of classic rock. But perhaps his biggest accomplishment is being the father of one of our favorite people, our own Rose Dalton, who is an incredible member of the McGraw Show team every single morning, heard here on KTRS from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Radio Rich, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for that great introduction.
So you, as I mentioned earlier, at a time many would consider probably the heyday of rock radio, when you were part of the headline team for that, one of the things that always stood out is A, how much you love music, and B, how much music knowledge you've always been able to hold on to. Is that something you knew from a pretty young age?
Well, you hit the nail on the head there, Jill, because what I was into was music. You know, some people like radio, and they were into radio, but I was into music, and radio was just my medium. And so music was always, I feel sometimes like I'm like a musician, and what I do is I make music with other people's music.
So we all watched WKRP growing up, seeing all the bizarre things that can happen in radio. What's like the craziest thing that you can remember from KSHE? And then on the flip side, who was like somebody that was really level-headed as a rocker, that someone that seemed like he could be an accountant more than a rock star?
Well, Frank, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened to me in the radio.
Give us one.
See. Okay. I used to. Well, I'll tell you what. This wasn't so crazy, but this was a KADI in 1973, and the radio station burned down. There was a fire.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, and the next day, well, I was there that night and saw the station burning. And I noticed, for instance, they had an AM station there too, and there was a tower, radio tower, and one of the ambulances or fire trucks pulled up, and they hit one of the guy wires. And I remember the tower going. The next day, I was in the studio. The studio itself did not burn, but it was baked heavily. It was really hot in there, and it smelled of smoke. And I stood behind the control board, and the knobs on the board, it's melted down. They'd slid down, not unlike, one of those melted clock paintings that you see by Salvador Dali. And it was so strange to stand in that studio, and it smelled of smoke, and all the records were either ruined by heat or water. And that was, one of many experiences I've had in radio.
Radio Rich joins us on the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS. You're perhaps best known for your Sunday night classic show where you'll play complete album sides. Was there someone early in life or in your career who introduced you to new music and bands? Where did the love come from?
Well, I was born in 1950, and so I predate rock and roll. And so also I would listen to the radio every night. I guess I just liked music right from the start. And my education, I guess, came from just watching the develop. First there was, Chuck Berry and that kind of stuff, and then Elvis. And then I was 14 when the Beatles hit. I was 17 when Cream and Doors and all that started. And so we sort of developed together. I started playing guitar. I had a band in high school. Also, what I did start, and one thing I really was not Sunday evenings so much, but Sunday mornings. For 8 years, I did the Sunday morning classic show, and I could pick the music there and put it together in a meaningful way. I like picking music myself rather than, later on as time went on, more and more there were playlists to follow and formats to follow. And I like to be able to come in Sunday mornings and program the radio station the way that I knew best.
If you're just joining us now, Radio Rich is joining us. Dalton, of course, a voice very familiar to many of you listening today. And as I mentioned, during some of those heyday years of rock radio, and I think Frank touched on this as well, every major band stopped at the radio stations while they were in town for tour or to promote new albums. It was just part of what happened. And as you said earlier, Rich, you are a music lover. Was there any band or band members or musicians you got to meet when they came into the radio station that for you as an appreciator of their art found yourself feeling a little bit starstruck?
Well, I really liked the Moody Blues a lot growing up. And they were in town to do a concert. And also that same night, or the night before, they were going to do a national syndicated show called Rockline. And they were going to do it out of the KSHE studios. So I was there when John Lodge and Justin Hayward came by. Well, I was talking to them, excuse me, before the show or after the show, and I mentioned, excuse me, that we'd just gotten in their album Days of Future Past on CD. And this was, I guess, the early 80s. CDs were still a new thing. And they said, oh, we haven't heard it yet. And so I said, come on. And so I had the amazing pleasure of sitting in a studio with Justin Hayward and John Lodge, and we listened to their album, Days of Future Past. And they discussed things, you know, what was going on. And, you know, John Lodge said, somebody knocked over a cymbal stand then and stuff like that. And that was a real amazing experience.
I'm sure you've been backstage at concerts countless times.
Yes.
Yeah. How close was the movie Almost Famous to the behind-the-scenes band experience?
Well, it was very close. It was very close. There were groupies that were there just for, you know, some sort of partying adventure. And then there were groupies that also kind of like, they felt like taking care of members of the band. And at first, early on, there was very, like in the late 60s and early 70s, once you got backstage, you could go anywhere. You know, you could walk around, you could walk into their dressing room, you could go in and pick up somebody's guitar if you wanted. But as time went on and they learned what they were doing, there began being different levels of passes. You would get a backstage pass, and the ultimate one would say all access, and you could go wherever you wanted. But after a while, some would say pre-show or after show or this and that. And so, and this is very understandable that they had to put a little more control on things. But also, you know, sometimes, you know, you'd walk in and they'd be in the studio or be in their backstage area. Oh yeah, sit down, man. You know, have some beer or whatever. Other times, if you're going to meet the group, they would put you in. Sometimes maybe it'd be like contest winners for a meet and greet. You'd be in one room, and then one or more members of the band could come in and talk for a little while and leave. There's tons of that stuff. But I've been a lot of backstages.
Yes, I can imagine probably more than you can even count and remember. So if you had to pick, because you know when you originally started doing the classics show, right, it was rock and roll was in all respects relatively new, to your point earlier, when what we were calling classics in the 70s and 80s. What do you consider, if you had to pick a favorite era of rock music for you as a music lover, a music aficionado, what would you say is your favorite era?
I can easily say around the time, say 1964, when the Beatles hit, and then maybe the next 10 years. And the reason that this music, to me, is special is because in those days, like take the Grateful Dead, for instance. They were signed to Warner Brothers Records, and the guys that ran Warner Brothers, for the most part, were older guys. You know, they were doing business with Frank Sinatra and stuff like that. And somebody would come in and say, these San Francisco groups are big, we should sign one. Okay, sign them up, put them in the studio, and the guys would go in the studio, and they were much more dialed in, and they weren't getting interference from the record company, and they were able to put what was in their hearts and in their minds and their feelings and get that onto tape. But as time went on and these groups made more and more money, and other people, record companies, they started telling groups, well, do this or don't do that, or this group is big, can you sound like that? And they began making it a little harder for groups to just have that pure inspiration that they had during that 10-year period that I described.
Is it true that Sharon Osbourne asked you if you wanted to go on tour with Black Sabbath?
No, it was Ozzy. It was Ozzy.
Okay.
Oddly enough, the person the rock guy I spent the most time with was Ozzy. And it's not because I was a particular fan of his, but because just Ozzy was so willing and available. Now, another thing which I created was a show called Monday Night Metal. And I realized that Radio Rich was too mellow a guy to do a metal show. If you're going to do metal, do it. So I just created this guy named Radical Rich. And
that's great.
Radio Rich would say good night, and Monday Night Metal's coming on next, and Radical Rich would come on and he would shout and yell. You know, he'd start the show with this rant: "On your feet or on your knees." So eventually, I began getting, asked to MC. I did Kiss and Metallica and Ozzy, and I thought also I should probably have a little get up too. So I had some people make this like uniform, and I kind of looked a little like Mad Max, and I had a mask, and so I was emceeing Ozzy, and went out on stage and yelled, like, "What's the arch made of?" And everybody yelled, "Metal." "What are beer cans made of?" "Metal."
Good stuff.
When it was over, or when I finished, I'm walking, and I see Ozzy give me and when I was walking off stage, backstage, Sharon said, "That was lovely. You want to come on tour and do that?" I politely declined.
Before we let you go, did you ever meet a Beatle, a Rolling Stone, or even Elvis?
I never met Elvis. I never met any Rolling Stones, but I did get a chance to talk with Ringo one time.
That's cool.
Yeah. I was.
And before we let you go, Rich, we also have to make sure we talk about what it's like to listen to your daughter Rose continuing the family tradition, if you will, in a slightly different vein on our air every single morning. We, of course, think she does a great job. I'm sure you do as well. Is it pretty fun hearing her carry on some of the tradition?
Yes, and because it's funny, I've been a parent that I never said, well, you got to do this or do that. I always wanted to encourage them to follow their hearts, and never thought in regards to her, getting into radio like that. And so when she started doing it and getting into it, it was a pleasant surprise. And yeah, I'm very proud of her. She does really well. She does breakers and stuff for the radio show I do now. And yeah, I'm very proud of Rose, and glad at her success.
She's a delightful woman to see every day. Thanks so much, Radio Rich. We really appreciate it. It's an honor going down memory road and hearing about your incredible career in radio. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Frank and Jill. Thanks for calling. Yeah, I'm glad to do it. Radio
Rich joining us. We will take...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
He's real fun. Frank, before I let you go, I talked to some other people who worked with him through the years, and it was fun to hear them talk about just stuff that he could recall off the top of his head, B-sides of songs and who produced music, and just to have that much knowledge in your head. And that's one of my favorite things about Wood's basement systems is they have more knowledge about how to keep your basement dry, how to solve any basement waterproofing issues that you have than any of us will ever know. It's because they love it. That's why they've been doing this as a family business, now multi-generational family business since 1986. And that's because when they got started in the business, they recognized St. Louis has too many beautiful homes that end up having structural compromise or just huge issues that devalue the home because of the way that our water table is set up here. We have rocky, wet clay soil that holds on to moisture. And most of us, thank goodness, have basements because, by the way, we have a lot of storms here. So we need that space, or we love to have it for extra living space. And once they identified the problem, all those nearly 40 years ago, they set about to finding the best solutions, the most technical solutions, the solutions that your average DIYer just could never come up with on their own. There's been a lot of companies that have come and gone claiming they were in the basement waterproofing business, but none have been able to stick with it and do it as successfully as Woods Basement Systems. And if you become a customer of theirs, you'll realize why. 618-708-4055 or woodsbasementsystems.com.
Summer's here. Is your air conditioner up for the challenge? Hi, Farmer Dave here for Viviano Heating and Air. With Viviano Heating and Air, you don't have to guess. Our certified technicians provide expert AC maintenance, repairs, and energy-efficient system upgrades tailored to your home. Schedule your AC service today by calling 618-345-7498 or visit the website vivianoair.com. That's vivianoair.com. Train, the most reliable name in heating and cooling around. It's hard to stop a train.
Merry Christmas, boys and girls.
Hi, it's Jill Farmer, and it is Christmas in July. We're partnering up with the Salvation Army to make sure the neediest kids in our region get toys. The Salvation Army provides Christmas gifts to 6,500 St. Louis kids who wouldn't have much Christmas without the Angel Tree Toy Town event. Thanks to the tornado that damaged so many homes in North St. Louis, the Salvation Army knows the need will be greater than ever this year.
Only 10 million more lists to go.
Coming up in July, bring your family out for a fun outdoor movie event at Westport Plaza to watch Finding Nemo on July 11th or The Sandlot on July 18th. Bring a new toy for the Salvation Army and enjoy the movie for free. It's Christmas in July, brought to you by KTRS and Westport Plaza, supporting the Salvation Army.
How do you separate estate planning from elder law? You don't, because they're so intertwined. Let's face it, we're all getting older, and you need to make these decisions today, whether it's for your parents, for yourself, or for future generations. Rudy Beck, Jay Lennox, and Carolyn Stolzer have been navigating these important decisions for more than 50 years. Beck, Lennox, Stolzer, Estate Planning, and Elder Law. Call them, 636-946-7899 or beckelderlaw.com. You can thank me later.
At Ruffino's Painting, we do residential and commercial, interior and exterior painting. We even refinish kitchen cabinets and decks. Whether it's a simple recoat, a color change, or a complete makeover, we'll work together to achieve your desired results. We are fully insured and a cut above the rest. Find us on Facebook at Ruffino's Painting or call 636-655-0820 and at ruffino'spainting.com.
Are you old school or are you new school? Doesn't really matter, because if you need a hardware store, where do you go? Schnarr's Hardware, and their two locations, East Lockwood and Webster Groves, and of course their world headquarters on Clayton Road. You see, Schnarr's Hardware is one of those places where you walk in and you say, this thing broke off my toilet. Do you have one of these? Yeah, follow me. And they take you in the back and you pass 19 different aisles of things that you wish you could stop and look at. And do you need a 3-inch or a 4-inch? I think I need a 3-inch. Great. I'll buy two and I'll bring the other one back. That's why Schnarr's Hardware has been so successful. It's the customer service and the attention to detail. Whether you need fertilizer or whether you need something for the kitchen, maybe you need something for the big green egg. Two locations, one great hardware store, Schnarr's Hardware. And yes, the popcorn is always free, as well as the smell, because it smells like a hardware store. East Lockwood and Webster Groves, and on Clayton Road in Ladue, Schnarr's or schnarrs.com. We'll see you there.
I'm Bob Hardcastle. Listen to my Money Talk radio program every Sunday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. on the Big 550, where we discuss your money in an easy-to-understand manner. We have interesting guests, chat about money. We try to help you feel more comfortable with your money by talking about the investment market. Join me. I'm Bob Hardcastle.
Money Talk, Sunday morning at 8 on the Big 550 KTRS.
St. Louis is home to more than 80,000 University of Missouri St. Louis alumni, where they drive the region's economy and contribute to its social and cultural well-being. At UMSL, more is what moves us. Find your more and build more connections at more.umsl.edu.
Want a song?
You're on my mind like a song on the radio.
Want a quote? It's the song and quote of the day on the Frank and Jill Show. Right here on the Big 550 KTRS.
A very candid Andy Van Slyke coming up in about 4 or 5 minutes. But first, the song and the quote of the day. Jill?
Yep, I think as we talked about earlier in the show, a lot of people feeling a little bit of just heaviness over the news of the weekend. And I chose a song for the day that's originally sung by Leonard Cohen, but it's just one of those that I think in when we're in a somber mood, it just brings a little, I don't know, brings me back to the center, if you will, and a little bit of healing. This is a musician named Rachel Kurtz's version of Alleluia. Rachel has an incredible voice, and I think as she lends it to that particular song, it's a moving one for me, hopefully, maybe for somebody else as well.
Very nice.
Hey, I wanted to ask you earlier, and we didn't get to it because I was chronicling my my ailments, which are probably not nearly as interesting, but I have to check in real quickly before we get to the soundbite of the day. You had big plans before you were taking a rare extended weekend break to get as much golf in as possible and some great family time as well. Were you successful in both of those pursuits?
Yes, although the golf is still a work in progress and I've had some emotionally draining moments, but I'm a positive guy. I've just found ways where it's not going to work. It's like the light bulb with Edison when he kept failing. I've just found 10,000 ways for it not to work. So we're still working, but everything was great. So.
Yeah. Do you get frustrated and angry so it takes away the pleasure, or you're so driven, does not having it be exactly where you want the game to be spur you on or drive you?
No, it drives me because I'm ticked off, and as soon as I just go right to the range and try to just keep hammering away and trying to figure things out. So it's a work in progress. Nobody cares.
On behalf of Dr. Rick, I'd like you to remember that you do have an injured elbow that
Yeah.
you got to remember in the midst of that as well. Details. Somebody that I think both you and I really like a lot, we've talked about it before, is historian and documentarian Ken Burns. And I was surprised this weekend to listen to him on an extended interview with John Dickerson on Face the Nation. And he shared some profound thoughts on America, since this was July 4th, and a lot of us thinking about our country's past as well as its future. As we begin now our 250th year, this is what he said. Yeah, isn't that good?
Yes. I heard him on Joe.
You and I.
Go ahead.
You heard him on what? Go ahead.
I heard him on Joe Rogan for 3 hours about 2 weeks ago. I'm telling you, he is so good. He's like Churchill or Barack Obama or Martin Luther King or William F. Buckley. I mean, he's just so smart, and he delivers it with such passion. He's really good.
Yeah, and you and I both appreciate somebody who can be that articulate and not to trivialize it, but can be a walking soundbite in many ways. And I don't know of anybody else. I think you just hit the nail on the head in our modern world who can speak so eloquently and articulately on such a variety of importance to our country in that same way. He's something else.
All right, we'll take a break. Cardinals and Cubs conversation with the one and only Andy Van Slyke when we come back.
And now, KTRS weather from the John Beal Roofing Weather Desk.
Slipping into the dog days of summer here this week. Warm, muggy, and a chance of rain each and every day. Isolated showers and thunderstorms today. Let's be ready for that. But boy, a lot of dry time in the mix as well. A cloud-sun mix this morning will make way for sunshine this afternoon, at least away from any isolated storms. 89 for the high. Looking at dry times overnight tonight, I'll forecast the low down to 73. And then Tuesday's worth watching. Scattered thunderstorms developing. Couple of those could kick out some strong gusty winds and some areas of heavy rain. The time to watch really is the afternoon into the evening. A muggy high of 90 on Tuesday afternoon. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers for the Big 550 KTRS.
John Beal Roofing is the home of the lowest price roofing guarantee. Get a free estimate today at johnbealroofing.com. Heidi Glaus, Josh Gilbert, and Bob Ramsey. Weekday afternoons at 3 on the Big 550.
Always current and always on.
KTRS.
Hey, it's Heidi Glaus, and I want to remind you to tune in to the Heidi Glaus Show with Bob Ramsey and Josh Gilbert weekdays from 3 to 6. You don't want to miss all the fun. Plus, twice a month, we're joined by Dr. Ravi Johar, the Chief Medical Officer for United Healthcare. Dr. Johar and United Healthcare will keep us informed and educated about everything happening in the healthcare system, plus important facts to keep us healthy. United Healthcare and the Heidi Glaus Show on the Big 550 KTRS.
Every Friday, tune into the weekly Golf Course Spotlight, brought to you by Yingling Flight, the next generation of light beer, and by Park North Golf Club, Edwardsville's newest golf entertainment venue. So, join us every Friday to learn more about the St. Louis area golf experience, right here on the Frank and Jill Show.
The Stages St. Louis season continues. Austin Pride, a new take on Jane Austen's classic Pride and Prejudice. Single tickets on sale now. Visit stagesstlewis.org. In downtown Kirkwood, stagesstlewis.org. Dr. Joe, it can get very confusing, but the one thing we need to know is GLP-1, right? That's the magic cure.
Yeah, they're on the med, and these medications are used, these GLP-1s, for reducing inflammation in your body. I get so many folks that are like, wow, I don't have the knee pain. I don't have the...
Because once you start losing weight, all these other things naturally happen to you in a positive way. Not just talk about the deals for KTRS listeners at stlmedweightloss.com.
All KTRS listeners, they get $50 to $100 off their first month. And what's beautiful about it, too, hey, I get it. The economy, what we just had, guys, things are difficult right now, but we make the plan work for you. We have financing options. We make this work for you because we realize how important it is to get down in your weight, get your confidence back, and really start feeling like the old you.
Call stlmedweightloss.com and ask Dr. Joe. stlmedweightloss.com.
And welcome back to the Frank and Jill Show. Andy Van Slyke is a 5-time Gold Glove Award winner. He's a 3-time All-Star. He's been in St. Louis his entire life after being a first-round pick of the Cardinals. We know the major topic all weekend long was the Cardinals and Cubs, and most of it really, really negative. He's with us every Monday night, but I wanted to play a portion of the interview today since the Cardinals and Cubs dominate the conversation. Some very candid comments from Andy Van Slyke. You can hear the entire interview tonight at 6 o'clock on 550. We have a wonderful radio program every Monday night called the Control Option Press Box. Jill, a little bit of business before we go to break.
Yep, that's for sure. And if you don't regularly listen to the press box, it's always worth it just to hear that kind of candor that you seem to get out of all of your guests, whether you agree or disagree. It's good stuff. And speaking of candor, if you turn to Ryan Raphael, who's our Medicare man, he's going to give it to you straight when it comes to finding the right plan for you. Medicare and all of the things that go with that, the Medigap insurance plans or the Advantage plans, it's just overwhelming for a lot of people. And I recently talked to somebody who's still working. They hadn't in plans to work past 65, and so they weren't really dealing with what was next for them when it came to Medicare plan options. And they said after listening to us talk about it on the radio, they were thinking maybe the time is now to start having the conversation and to understand helping you choose the right plan for your Medicare needs. Because even though it's extremely confusing, Ryan makes it much less confusing, and specifically, he's going to listen carefully to exactly what you need and to make your needs be the headline of how the best plan is picked for you. All you have to do, he has a very centrally located office, is reach out to him and make your appointment today, 314-368-6808 or MedicareManSTL.com.
It's Julie Buck here to tell you that the patio is open at Bishop's Post right next to Chesterfield Mall. Get your reservations in now and go to Bishop's Post. You will love it. Tell them Julie Buck sent you, bishopspost.com.
Hi, it's Frank Cusimano inviting you to join me for the Press Box, brought to you by Control Option, Monday through Thursday at 6 p.m. We're going to interview some of the biggest names in sports and have our opening monologue. That's the Press Box, brought to you by Control Option, Monday through Thursday at 6 p.m. right here on the Big 550 KTRS, the talk of St. Louis.
Becoming a truck driver doesn't have to be complicated. At Schneider, we make it easy to get your commercial driver's license and start your new career. With our CDL apprenticeship training, you'll get paid to become a truck driver in just 5 to 6 weeks and have a Schneider driving job waiting for you when you've completed the program. Plus, during training, Schneider will provide transportation, lodging, and meals at no cost to you. Ready to get your career on the road? Learn more and apply today at SchneiderJobs.com. That's SchneiderJobs.com.
Make a splash this summer with Dogtown Pizza. The weather and the pizza ovens are heating up, so stock up on 12 different flavors of your favorite Dogtown. Why cook hamburgers on the grill when you can get a hamburger pizza? Hot chicken, the SOB and for me, and from the garden, tomato, basil, garlic, and the veggie. Make your next pool party a pizza party with 12 different flavors of Dogtown, one for every swimmer in your house. Make it a Dogtown summer at every local grocery store and dogtownpizza.com.
Your biggest choice in home restoration is who do you trust with your home, your most valued asset? Few can match Banner Construction's experience and dedication to excellence. Banner is an elite preferred James Hardy contractor and Pella Windows specialist. Restoration is a one-time opportunity to have Banner's design team show you architectural options to make your home the neighborhood showcase. Call for a free consultation, 314-569-1050. And have a Banner Day.
The storms are back, the wind, the hail, the damage to the roof. And when the roof gets damaged, who do you call? You call John Bill Roofing. But the storms are back. You know who else follows the storms? The storm chasers. These are the teams of people who come and leave a note on your door, mailbox, maybe your windshield wiper, and they tell you to call, and you think you're getting a deal. You give them half the money, and you never see them again. With John Bill Roofing, they've been in this business for a long time right here in St. Louis. They live, work, and play, and they guarantee you to give you the best price on your roof. When the roof gets damaged, your first phone call is to John Bill Roofing, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, or johnbillroofing.com. Roofing, siding, gutters, John Bill Roofing. Residential, commercial, industrial, a company you can trust, a company that lives, works, and plays right here in St. Louis. Make it local. Make it John Beal or johnbillroofing.com.
All right, welcome back. This is the Frank and Jill Show on the Big 550 KTRS. A good program lined up tomorrow. Dr. Rick is going to join us. Joe Holloman is going to join us, among others. Jill is nursing a what would you call it again?
I got bronchitis, just a respiratory crud, but it's I feel the best I felt in several days today, so I just was trying to avoid coughing all over you and Connor's nice clean workspace there, especially since, as you mentioned at the top of the show, you're getting ready to go to one of my favorite places in the United States for sure, Lake Tahoe, for an important wedding coming up a little bit later in the week. So that would be a pretty nasty thing to do, is to get you my respiratory junk here.
Well, I appreciate that. For the throat issue, have you ever heard the Sheryl Crow thing? And I've done it before broadcast, is the greasiest potato chips you can possibly find, and it kind of like lubricates the throat a little bit. They say that's been a good thing.
Yeah, a lot of musicians do that too. I know I've always been an Amy Grant fan, and that was one of her tricks to do as well. As you pointed out, I just did hot tea and hot bone broth, as hot as I could stand it, and a little bit of honey this morning, and it wasn't too bad. You guys had to listen when I was muted from our listeners. You had to listen to me hack into my microphone here at home, but overall it's gone pretty darn well because of the professionals behind the scenes like you and Connor making things run smoothly for sure.
All right, well, you rest today. Hopefully we'll either see you or hear from you tomorrow. Have a great day. We appreciate it. Thanks so much. And thanks to our listening audience. That'll do it for this edition of the Frank and Jill Show. Coming up next, John Carney, Julie Buck. We'll take a break, and we'll be back in 22 hours.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill